Hi, my name is Kenesha Berry. I am a relationship life coach. I help my clients get clear about who they are so they can begin to create the life, love, and relationships that they want. This month in August, I've decided to do a series where I just talk about living as an expat. For those of you who may not know, that means those people who live outside of a country that's not their own. So for the last 9 years, my family and I have lived as expats in 2 different countries. We began our journey in the UAE, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, that area, and now we live in Beijing, China. We've been there for now 6 years. Since I've been there on the journey in China, my coaching practice has been blossoming. I've helped so many people overcome the fear that's stopping them from being everything they want to be. And of course, I coach couples, I coach individuals. And I've been blessed enough to go into organizations and just teach different things, different workshops on things like confidence and self-control and how we let fear control our life, how to overcome fears, those kind of things. So this month, what I decided to do was to reach out to my Very Thoughtful group. I have a WeChat group in China. So if you guys are in Beijing, if you're watching, you're in Beijing, and you're interested in connecting, make sure you join my WeChat group. And in my WeChat group, I share morning inspirations. So in that group of my very thoughtfuls is what I call them, they start asking me, like, let's talk about marriage and relationships and being an expat and in the whole expat life and the struggles that we face. Because a lot of times we don't talk about the struggles. People look at our lives, many of us who move abroad, and they think it's all glamorous, but it can be really, really tough and really challenging, particularly on a marriage. And so I want to share with you guys a little bit about my journey as an expat wife, as a trailing spouse, and what I've learned on the journey, what I've experienced, and also a little bit from what I've heard from other people about what it's like living this pretty challenging life. So that's what today's lesson, I guess if you want to call it a lesson, be about. I make sure that I leave you with some tips to help you to kind of face those challenges and to deal with them. Thing you should know about me as you're watching my video, and so you understand the base of what I teach and where I come from and my vision and my insight on life. I am a Christian and I believe the Word of God is true. And not only do I believe it's true, I find it to be such a wise way of living. And it has been the only book in my life that has helped me make it through some of the most difficult times. And so as we talk about expats and being in marriage, I have to share with you guys that 9 years ago, when I packed up everything and sold everything and left the country to live with my husband in the UAE, my husband went 4 months before I did. Now, I don't imagine he planned it, but he found himself in relationship, in an emotional affair with another woman. And I don't think he hated it. Like, for a while, I think he was enjoying it. And when I arrived and discovered this, I literally found out was on his computer, thought I was in my email, and saw that he was talking to someone else. And so I'm watching this live conversation happen. And so I chose to enter the conversation. And I won't go into all those details, but listen to me. If you're a woman out there and you're facing infidelity and the hurt and the pain and betrayal of that, and you need my story to maybe help you get through and get by, reach out to me. I'll be there with you. I'll help you make it through, because I became a life coach because at that time in my life, at that time in my marriage, when I thought it was all over, when I thought it was coming to an end, here I was in this new country. I didn't have anybody. I left all my family, my friends, sold everything. We moved out of the house that we was living in. And I moved to be with my husband, this man who I love dearly, but I won't pretend like we didn't have issues. However, this is the thing that I want you to get about the expat life and expat marriage. When we're faced with the excitement and the newness of moving to a new country, we will begin to believe that somehow magically now everything is going to be better or great because we have these new opportunities, we're going to have this new life. And this is for, if you're single and you're listening, this part applies to you too. We think because we have these new lives, these new opportunities, we're going to meet all these new people, that everything is going to be different. Here's what I've learned about the journey. Now, I have other people who've experienced this as well, and if they're willing to go through the journey, they can confirm this. Some people aren't ready to walk through the journey. When we're put in a situation where we're removed from everything and everyone we know, I believe that this is the situation where God steps in and wants to heal us of all of the crap and all of the stuff that we've been holding on to for years. And that's exactly what happened in my marriage in 2011. So I arrived 2010, December 2010, 2011 is when everything hit the fan. And what was so interesting is when I arrived in the UAE, the scripture that was leading me there was, I am about to do a new thing. It's in Isaiah, and I can't quite quote it perfectly, but God, He kept giving me that scripture. I'm about to do a new thing. And when we think new, we think good, happy, joy, right? Iyanla Vanzant says that she says, when we are faced with a new situation, everything that's in us that's broken, that needs healing, will rise to the surface. And it's in the new situation we have to learn to pause, to take time out, to pull back, so that we can begin to do the new thing and don't do what we've always done. And that's exactly what the trajectory of my marriage, that's what happened with Andre and I when we entered into what we call our desert situation. We was physically in the desert, our location, and we was in a spiritual desert. Because of our journey now as an expat into this new country, we only had each other and God. And so in the midst of finding out my husband was in an affair and him choosing to sort for himself, why did he do this? Like he was in extreme disarray and pain that he did this because he believed that he loved me greatly, but he didn't understand what the driving force was behind his need to do this. What I respect about him is that he decided to seek help. Like he didn't just choose to say, I'm sorry, tell me I have to get over it. He says, I want to know what the root of this is in me that would cause me to go this route. And this is why I chose to stay in my marriage, to fight for my marriage and not just fight in my marriage. I understood that Andre and I fighting about what happened wasn't going to change anything. Did we have fights about it? Absolutely. Know that like I'm not so super Christian that this wasn't a challenge for me. But in the process, God took me on a journey. He took my husband on a journey. And interestingly enough, he took us on our own separate journeys as he brought us together. Meaning Andre went for his one-on-one counseling. I reached out for a counselor, but my counselor happened to be a coach. She was a woman who dealt with and helped women deal with betrayal. She was amazing. She helped me so much. She opened my eyes to so much. She's the reason I became a life coach. So here's what I want you to understand about your journey as an expat, and particularly if you're in marriage. If you're honest, if you're ready to do the work, this is your time to do the work. What happens a lot of times when people move into, like, again, new situations, new countries, we think we can forget and avoid everything that's in us that's not fixed or that's broken or that hurts. We think we can avoid it. And many times we push so much back in our life, things that hurt us in the past, and then we don't want to deal with it. So we just push it back in our memory, we push it down in our bodies, and we think, well, if I don't think about it and if I don't deal with it, it's not dealing with me. It's always dealing with you. And in that community or that new life of separating yourself from everything you know, this is where the opportunity to heal is going to come forth way bigger than you think. So here are the things you're going to face a lot of times as an expat. Some of the things you're going to face. You may face a level of loneliness that you have not experienced before. See, it's one thing to be married and couple, and maybe God, I hope you guys don't experience, anyone's watching this who is in marriage relationship right now, I hope you don't experience the devastation that Andre and I went through. But I will tell you, it's what I call my beautiful ugly. It was a hard, ugly time, but it turned into beautiful. There's a scripture that says he would give you beauty for your ashes. He took our ashes. He took our crap. He took the stuff that we have been hiding for a long time and we have been burying, and he revealed it all. He tore it all up. He being God, brought it all to the surface, and then he allowed Andre and I to heal from our past pain so that we can begin to build on a stronger, more loving foundation in a marriage. So don't feel bad for me. Don't feel sorry for me. Or even if you're that person who thinks, well, if I find out that my spouse is cheating, I would leave. There's nowhere I would stay. So maybe you think I'm the stupid one. But I will say this: my children don't think I'm stupid. I didn't have to raise them as a single mom. They get to be raised in a strong, loving environment because my husband and I chose to do the work. And so I'm saying that to say to you, in this situation of being an expat, where it's just maybe you and your husband, and if you're blessed, you have children, but ultimately, as two adults, maybe you feel like all we have is each other. We don't have anyone else. And there's a distance or a silence or separation in your hearts and your mind for each other. This is your time to heal that. You can't keep avoiding it. You can't keep running from it. And it will not resolve itself. Time does not heal wounds. What you do in the time is what heals the wound. And so I would invite you that if you're in the expat lifestyle, that this is your time, that you may be being called forth to heal the wounds that's in your marriage. So now, let's assume that you're in a great marriage and everything is good, but you still have these challenges of being separated from everything you know. We were created for community, particularly women. This is why historically there are like always tribes and groups, and families travel together, and you travel with your tribe and your group, because the men had to go out. And again, I am a little bit of a traditionalist in this way. The men had to go out historically to work, to provide, to hunt, and the women stayed together. So what happens when you become an expat, if you're a trailing spouse, and this is not for everybody, because I do know of trailing spouses where the wife works and the husband is the one who stays home. But let's talk about for a second, you're the wife who's home. Or maybe you even have a job, but still you've been separated from everything that you know. As women, we need strong connection, and we want bonding. We just have this deep desire, most of us, to bond, to have connection, to have authentic relationships. So being an expat, that can be very difficult. And so what happens sometimes in marriages is we can begin to try to get every need met through our spouse. And that can be exhausting and can be very challenging on our marriages, because our spouses aren't meant to meet all of our needs. Ultimately, only God can meet all of your emotional needs. I need you to get that. Like, ultimately, only God can meet all of your emotional needs. There are some things that as couples we can help one another with, but it's not our job per se. And I know some of you guys, you're like, that's crazy, you don't believe that. And that's okay if you don't believe it. Here's the thing about your not believing it. It ain't working. Like, if you're honest, you will see in your own marriage that it's not working. It's not producing the result that you want it to produce. Someone is feeling poured on, drained. Someone is saying, I can't be everything for you in that marriage if that's what you're doing. So this is why it's so important that you begin to do the work and you get connected to God, get higher source, something greater than yourself, so that you can find that healing that you need and make real connections and true connections, which can be a challenge in a new community with new people. And if you're like me, like I like authentic relationships. I struggle with the surface level, let's smile, let's pretend everything is okay, and I don't have any place to have heartfelt communication. But here's what I know, that God is a wonderful God that will feel that for you. So go to Him and ask Him to send you that someone. And you only need one. Don't be greedy, think you need a whole community of people. You can have a community of people for socialization, but for that deep connection, particularly as women, find that one true friend. She's going to help you through this process of being an expat, of being separated, so that you can get that need of connection met, and you're not drawing all the energy from your husband. The second thing you're going to feel and you might struggle with in being an expat, being new in the country, it's a feeling of isolation. I have never felt so isolated in my life living in China. One, I don't speak the language, and I know, shame on me, I've been there for 6 years and I haven't taken time to learn the language. So the little nuances of tiny communications that you don't even notice when you're moving around your own country I'm home for the summer, and I have so many little conversations with people in grocery stores, at the gas station, just these small interactions. Hey, how are you today? Isn't it beautiful outside? Have all these little moments that just fill you up, fills what I call our joy cup, without even fully realizing it. But when you're in a place where you don't speak the language, it becomes so isolating because you don't get to have those moments. You may have smiles and nods, but you can't interact with the community because of the language barrier. So that isolation becomes this real big challenge. And also, what we could tend to do is retreat back and stay to ourselves. That's probably one of the worst things you can do. So I encourage you, particularly if you're the spouse that's not working, and even if you are working, find a way to get connected to the community. In Beijing, there are so many groups of there's a group of women who get together to have these clothing auctions. One of my favorite things to do. But then there's also a group, an INN group, what's it called, International Networking, Newcomers Networking, where when you come to China, if you get connected, you can volunteer with them. They host events all the time. They teach about the culture. They take tours. Find you a group of people. Be the stranger in the beginning so that eventually you can meet the friend. But don't isolate yourself. Don't allow yourself to be closed off. Don't allow fear to keep you stuck in a box, whether that's your apartment or even if your box happens to be a big house. Don't allow fear to keep you stuck in that trap, because then when your spouse comes home from work, if that's your situation, again, you're pulling at them, and this is going to affect the marriage. It's going to really drain your spouse and drain each other. So try to allow yourselves to have your own life that you can come back together with. What the other thing that you're going to face being an expat in marriage is your identity. You might struggle with identity. When I left America, I was a graphic designer by trade. I was working for a company where I was the creative director. So I had these titles, and I understood myself from my 9 to 5, and then I go pick my children up and have to prepare dinner, make sure they have their homework, and maybe get to spend some time with my husband at the end of the night. So I had these roles. I was a great graphic designer. I was a mom. I was a wife. I was, worked with the church, with the teens at the church. I had these roles, and I had my friends, and we would do these circles, and so I knew who I was based on some of the things I did, the roles. When we leave the country and we in a new situation, and maybe even someone's watching this who haven't left that actual country, but maybe you left your home state and you're starting over, and you know who you are when you identify yourself through your roles. But I want you to start identifying yourself through something even greater, because you're still the same person, but maybe you haven't had to think about that before, because when you're in your community, all of life will keep you busy enough where you don't have to think about, my identity. Who am I? What do I think? What do I believe? What are my values? What is it that I really deep in the core of my soul? What do I need? Many times you don't have to think about that when you're operating in your community, because you're just moving and you're doing the thing that's next, and you have a schedule, and you know where you're supposed to be, and you have to be there, and you have to show up for people. So you are not thinking about the who am I? And this lifestyle, living abroad, being separated from everything that you know, will cause you to begin to reflect. And I encourage you to go on that journey. Go on the journey of reflecting to figure out, who are you? Who are you now by yourself? Who are you in a group of new people? What thoughts and beliefs did you carry with you about this new culture of people you're around that you find challenging, because maybe some of the thoughts and beliefs you had are proving not to be true? And are you willing to shed yourself of your limited thinking and open your mind to something new? So all of these things are opportunities, I think, as an expat, that you get to choose to be a part of. And the fourth thing that I think is so important, particularly in marriage, and I think this is important in every marriage, but specifically in the expat lifestyle marriage. And this is something as women we have to be so careful of. Ladies, you've got to get passionate about something. And the thing that you probably used to be passionate about, let that still be your passion. You need to have for yourself the thing that you want to do. It's not about your kids, it's not about your husband, but it's for you. Because here's what I've seen, and this is what I've experienced. I've done different groups where I have like just women in the room, and I'm teaching or talking about like the gift of you. Who are you? And what these women do is they talk about their children, they talk about their marriage, they talk about their experiences, but they don't talk about themselves. And then what I start hearing is how they complain about their husbands making time and taking time to do the things they love. Like he plays golf every Saturday. I'm the one who have to take the kids, and I have to do this with the kids. He goes and ride his bike. Like for me, my husband plays football. There are 8 weeks in the year in China and it's twice a year that I know I need to find something else to do on these particular Saturdays because Andre is playing football. And that's important to him. But what we do is we want them to stop doing the thing they love because we haven't chose to invest in something that we love. So I encourage you as women, in your marriage, make sure you have the thing that you love that is separate from your husband. Because what that's going to do is that's also going to fill your joy cup. But it also gives you guys something to get excited about and to talk about and to share about. But it gives you your own thing so that, you're not pulling at him to fulfill all these needs that are real. They are real needs that you have. But you're learning how to fulfill some of those needs on your own with the help of God. And then you are adding to. So when as a husband and wife, when you come together, you're adding to each other's lives instead of trying to pull away from each other's life. Instead of insisting that someone gives up something in order to kind of make you happy. That's your job. Your job is to make you happy. And then your job is to bring your joy, your peace, your happiness into your marriage to make the marriage better. Now, I know on some levels this seems too easy, right? And I know that there may be some marriages that are faced with some really hard, difficult stuff. Do the work it takes. If Andre and I can overcome betrayal at the deepest of levels, trust, know, and believe, that was the hardest thing for me. But if God can walk me through that process and heal my heart completely where there is no residue, like I don't bring it up to him, when I talk about it, I don't have any shame attached to it, guilt, resentment, anger, it's all wiped away. If God can do that for me and do it for Andre, then he can do it for you. So whatever you think this thing is in your marriage that can't be resolved, as long as both of you guys want to resolve the marriage, as long as both of you want the same thing, love, peace, joy, and have a standard of what that is for you all, you can get there. Now, if you guys have two different visions, that's going to be a problem. And that's going to be a problem anywhere, whether you're an expat or you live in the country that you grew up in. A healthy marriage has to have two people who want the same thing from each other at the same time, period. That's the only way it's going to work. And so I want you to be willing to do the work. So here are 3 things I want you to walk away with today as you watch this video. And you're the expat woman, spouse, or you're the person who maybe you're in the marriage, you're not sure what to do. This is what I want you to do. I want you to begin to create a vision for your marriage and for your time in this new country. Like, create a vision for it. Get really clear. What are some things that you want to accomplish in your marriage? Not just places you want to tour and see. Like, oh, we want to go to the Great Wall. We want to take a family photo. No. Take your marriage to a higher level. First of all, as you're thinking of your vision, think of your purpose. What is the purpose of your marriage? Like, what thing in the earth, in the family, in your family structure dynamic needs to shift and change, and that can be done through your marriage? Here's what I mean. So when Andre and I went through our journey, we was married 12 years. We had never really had a real vision for our marriage. Our goal was to be happily married. And we did say in the beginning of the marriage that we would create a space where if we weren't happy, we could talk about it. but over time that didn't work, obviously. What we've done now is we've set a vision for the marriage. Like, we know that there are some generational curses in our families, mine and his, of like divorce, single parenting, mindset, that we wanted to change. So we have a purpose for our marriage. Like, our marriage purpose is to want to glorify God. It is to be a walking, living example of God's love, His grace, His forgiveness, His joy, His peace right here on the earth. We want to be that for each other. We want to be that for our children. And we want to be that for people who encounter us. And we've heard people say that. So that lets me know putting that purpose on the marriage is a good thing. So now we have something, a guide to head towards. We have a vision. We have things that we want to accomplish. Over the years of being married, Dre and I have been married for 23 years now. And before, we didn't have a real vision. We had ideas, but we didn't have a vision, meaning that here's the vision, and this is what it's going to take to accomplish the vision. So we're in that process now where we have a vision, and we make sure that we're both clear about the vision and the goals so that we don't have to fight about the methods. Because as men and women, we never do things the same way. We will never do things the same way. One of the funniest things to me is that there's a game, an app called Ruzzle. It's a spelling game. And Dre and I can play it sitting beside each other. And we'll see the same word, but he'll see it the one way and I see it the other way. And I'm like, I didn't see that. He's like, how did you not see that? Because as men and women, we don't see things the same way. But when we know the goal, the whole point is, will your method accomplish the goal? If your method is different from mine, but it still accomplished the goal, we don't have to fight anymore. It's like, go for it, do it the way you're going to do it. As long as at the end of the day, we accomplish this goal. So I would encourage you, during your time, make sure you set goals and have a vision for your time as an expat. Like, if there's a part that wants to be healed, if your marriage is in turmoil, argument, resentment, maybe make that your vision. Our time apart from everyone else, we're going to use this time to heal that stuff inside of us. I want you to also get clear about like who you are at your core. I believe the isolation and the loneliness, there's a quote that says, loneliness is not the absence of people, it's the absence of purpose. So your time as an expat, you are going to experience loneliness. Loneliness is all our emotions are action signals. When we learn that the emotion is an action signal, it's just asking you to take actions, asking you to get into movement. So your loneliness can be asking you, get about your purpose, get clear about your purpose so you can get about that. You do that on your own, and then you can bring it to the fold with your spouse. Don't put that on your spouse. And then, or loneliness can be saying, call someone else. If you're feeling lonely, there's probably so many people around you that's feeling lonely. Go volunteer. Go serve. Serve out of your loneliness. Loneliness oftentimes means I'm thinking about me. I'm focused on me. Oh, it's me. My life. Nobody cares about me. Nobody's calling me. When you think too much of yourself, you create depression. And then that depression just builds. It creates more isolation. So get out of your own way. Use your time wisely. Connect to the community. Ask for what you need. Ask God, love, universe, Holy Spirit. What, God, this is what I need. Please provide it for me. And then here's the kicker. I want you to be open to how He provides it. Because a lot of times we'll have a mind set to how we want the friend to come, what the friend should look like, how they should be. And then when He provides the friendship and the connection, sometimes we push it away because it doesn't look like what we thought it would look like, or that spouse or that mate, they don't look like what we thought they would look like, and we push them away. So be open. Be open to when you ask for the prayer, when you ask for the thing that you need, that it may come in a package. Totally surprising to you. So I hope this helps as you journey through marriage as an expat. You can do it. You can make this some of the best times of your marriage. All the marriage is what you make it. And it works best when there are two emotionally aware people moving towards healing who want the same thing from each other at the same time. If you need help with that, I'm a relationship life coach. Is what I do. I don't do it. I don't say this to boast. I'd say it because I help my clients see results. I'm really good at what I do when you do the work. So I am Kenesha Berry, relationship life coach with BerryThoughtfulLife.com. If you need my help, feel free to reach out. If you are struggling, if you're going through betrayal in your marriage, reach out. We can get through that together. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.